going to start off with Giacomo first. Giacomo, you just got off this amazing panel talking about central bank digital currencies, talking about the future of fiat, talking about the future of stablecoins. So what is fiat? Like, what is the danger that fiat presents to humanity? You've gone hard on this subject specifically. Mike is yours.
I think that fiat is the attempt to negate two natural characteristics of money that are scarcity. Fiat is the pretense to just create wealth out of thin air by manipulating the money supply. So it's a revolt against the natural economical law of scarcity. And on the other hand, it's also a revolt against the natural law of privacy, in the sense that beside and above the circle of family and friends, the only way people can interact with each other by defending the property is to maintain some level of privacy and control of information. In a glass house, the strong guy can always take the stuff out of the small and weaker guy, and the only defense for the small guy is privacy. Like with pirates, you know, if you have pirates, the big pirate can always beat to that the small pirate, but the pirate will hide the gold in the chest with an encrypted map, and that creates a layered player field. So the fiat money is an attempt to basically inflate to infinity and spy on everybody and create perfect surveillance. Bitcoin is a revolt against, fiat is a revolt against nature. Bitcoin is a revolt against fiat, and the CBDC is a continuation of fiat under a fake Bitcoin painting and coating.
100%, and you see this. It's so funny. The European Central Bank, they're releasing these like meme videos. They changed the name. It's no longer like the Euro Central Bank digital currency. It's called the digital euro. They're getting younger girls to do like TikTok videos and tell you how they're going to respect your privacy and shit. Yeah, I don't believe that. Whatever. Anyways, Tone Vays, man. Tone, you're a Bitcoin OG. You've been in the industry for a while. You really started kind of like this Bitcoin only content. You really pioneered that forward. You know, you're part of the World Crypto Network. You were always pushing Bitcoin only from the beginning. In that era, I don't know if a lot of people remember. I know Giacomo remembers. There was not a lot of Bitcoin only content, and you really pioneered that. You had this incredible conference called Unconfiscatable. Unfortunately, I think I went to the last one, even though I'm pressuring Tone, and he will bring it back. It just depends on the bull market. And of course, he's the organizer of the Financial Summit. So, Tone, what's your take, man?
Yeah, well, after the World Crypto Network, I started a Bitcoin news show on my personal YouTube channel. Giacomo was a big part of that show. And we go back to talking about the concept of CBDCs as far back as like 2014, 2015. We're talking about it back then, and if I gotta find some of those old videos from 2015, everything I said in 2015, it's almost 10 years from now, or ago, and my view has not changed. The concept of CBDC never made sense. We've always had CBDCs, the US dollar, the euro, they're already CBDCs. It's a central bank digital currency, because 98% of all the money is already digital. So what is the point of these governments creating a brand new money? It actually makes no sense at all. It was always about the elimination of physical cash. That's all it is. There's two things they want to do. They want to eliminate physical cash for two reasons. Reason number one is they can surveil everything you do and control how you spend your money. That's reason number one. Reason number two is they actually want to remove the creation of money from the control of the banks. I know a lot of people think banks are evil, but banks are actually creating money out of thin air for the average consumer. If you think that's evil, wait till the federal government has the only control of money creation, right? That's actually worse. At least now there is a little layer of the private sector, even though this private sector has been deputized on behalf of the government. But hopefully, as administrations occasionally change, the private sector can work a little more in their own self-interest, which also tends to be the interest of their customers. So you don't want the full control of money creation and spending by the federal government. That's their goal. Whether a new currency gets created or not is really irrelevant.
Absolutely, 100%. I want to pass it on to Paul. Paul is the CEO of ByteFederal. Paul, you're hearing all these talks about central bank digital currencies, about fiat, about stable coins, the future of money in general. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm just stoked and humbled to be on the desk with Tone and Giacomo. These guys are so formative in my understanding of Bitcoin and the retaliation against shitcoins. If any of you watching today are new to Bitcoin and you haven't watched these guys from 2017, 18, 19, go back and you'll learn everything you need to know. So with that said, CBDCs, stablecoins, to me, this is just a continuation of the fiat mindset that is really disruptive to humanity. If you don't understand the way money can be used against you, to enslave you, to steal your wealth, and to remove your sovereignty, then you haven't done the research to really understand Bitcoin. And that's really all you need to know. Once you've figured out Bitcoin, it will paint a picture to allow you to understand and comprehend how destructive fiat is. And really, when you start to think about CBDCs and some of the stablecoin issuance, this is really just gas on the fire. And so this ignites or prolongs that fiat system that we're all trying to escape. So do your research, get on a Bitcoin standard, and deliver yourself into the future the right way.
I love that, love that. So Giacomo, what can individuals do? Because I get this concept a lot. I think Jack Mahler's dropped an amazing video on X and it kind of did the rounds a little bit. I always hear are you late to Bitcoin, right? And how can people regain their financial sovereignty? How can people escape the fiat matrix? How can people get out?
Well, the beauty of the sentence and the appeal get into the Bitcoin standard, enter the Bitcoin standard, is that it's not really a global thing. Bitcoin standard is a play on the gold standard, but the gold standard was something global that the governments had to decide together in Bretton Woods agreements, while the Bitcoin standard is something that it can start local, so you can stand for yourself. So if you want to fight against the creation of money out of thin air or financial and commercial surveillance, you don't have to change the world first. You can basically change your life locally, and then that will spread out in your community and your friends and your business, and as a Michael Jackson style. You start from the man in the mirror and you change that, and then that grows. So basically, about scarcity, you start to use some form of money which is not easy to print, and it cannot be printed. It's unprintable and cannot be inflated away or manipulated. And the second characteristic is that it's I was going there, Tom, because Tom was going to eventually, maybe we'll name another conference out of the second characteristic of Bitcoin, which is unprintability, but the first one is unconfiscatability, which is about the other half of Bitcoin. So if you move to a form of money that cannot be easily taken from you or spied or tracked, of course this is a trend, and it's an effort, it's not a final win. You don't become completely invisible to surveillance, you still have to fight for your privacy, and you don't escape completely the effect of inflation or hyperinflation. If you hold Bitcoin in a world which is collapsing under hyperinflation, you still have issues and problems, even if you are richer. Then you're never late for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, something said, I think it was Lop or somebody else, Bitcoin is not a get rich quicker scheme, it's a get poor slower scheme where you can protect yourself from inflation and censorship. Of course, the monetization phase of Bitcoin is something that will eventually go to a halt or to a slowdown. So the same amount of, so right now we're using Bitcoin to save and to protect ourselves from inflation and confiscation, but we also benefit from a first mover advantage in a monetization phase of a new asset. This is something that will not last forever, but the idea that we are at the end of this phase is crazy. We are not even at the beginning of a phase of monetization of Bitcoin. If you think about the process for gold to become the ultimate form of money during centuries, Bitcoin is not even close to begin this phase. So eventually somebody will be too late to ride the Bitcoin explosion, but it will never be too late to use it to protect himself from confiscation and inflation. But even the first part, the one in which we speculate on it, I think we're super early as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I completely agree. And Giacomo, just kind of you've been in this industry for quite a long time, right? how could you have imagined how far we've come, right? Of course, Bitcoin being legal tender, the United States talking about it making Bitcoin a potential strategic reserve. You're hearing it on the state level, like the state of Pennsylvania. The president of the United States, have fun with your Bitcoins. It's absolutely surreal. Like, I'm class of 2016. I could have never have imagined, but I can't even imagine, what that must feel like for someone who's come from an earlier class where Bitcoin was a lot more uncertain back then. This was before, the fork wars. This was before the China ban. This was before all this amazing development of software that actually makes Bitcoin easy to use for the, average everyday layman. Like, multi-sig was very difficult, and people forget this, right? So, is it surreal for you, for us to have come this far?
It is, even if it's a double faced coin. In some regards, the speed has been incredible. The fact that we arrived to have Trump going to the Bitcoin conference and the speech about Bitcoin by central bankers and main commercial bankers, a nation state making it legal tender is incredible. On the other hand, back in 2013, if you asked me what do you think the adoption will be in 2024, 25 in stuff like, for example, UXs of the wallet, you mentioned that there was a huge development, a huge improvement, but still, I was probably more optimistic about that. I was thinking that we will have had the perfect wallet in a few years, and we're still far away from getting to the perfect Bitcoin wallet. I think we will get there, but something like Netscape was for internet in 1995, I think the Bitcoin is still far from that. We're still in the ARPANET phase of the technology with not much user-friendly technology on top, and also adoption for payments. We were all, I think, imagining something faster, but then we realized. I realized that the use for saving is so much stronger as a use case that it can displace for the time being the use as a mean of payment, at least as an alternative to fiat. There are some markets in which you use Bitcoin for payment because you don't have alternatives, for international payments, for black markets online, for some smart e-commerce, use Bitcoin or inside Bitcoin conferences, use Bitcoin because it makes sense. But to a global level, fiat is still too easy to use. It's still not inflated and censored enough. So I think that so we have been doing our part, but the government has not been doing their part about hyperinflation enough and censorship. So go United States government, be better at inflation and censorship, so Bitcoin can also grow more as a medium of exchange.
So I take it you're an accelerationist. That's a very, very good point from Giacomo. Tone, same question to you. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know Tone, first of all, listen. So Tone has a lot of hidden talents. You were a geologist, right?
Yes.
Okay, so he's a geologist, number one. He plays poker, number two. But number three, he worked at Bear fucking Stearns before this thing just collapsed. Before this thing.
Not as a geologist.
Not as a geologist at Bear. Could you imagine if they had that? So you kind of experienced like the collapse of the traditional financial system back in 2008. We all remember the message in the Genesis block, Chancellor on the brink of the second bailout for banks. So I mean, like, you were in the fold of that. Same question to you. Could you have imagined Bitcoin coming this far?
Oh man, we always dreamed about Bitcoin coming this far, and it's hard to say whether it's exceeded our expectation or our expectations were, so lofty that Bitcoin still did not meet them. And there's always like two types of expectations. There's the price, and then there's the adoption. And they're very, very independent, but they're connected. So anyone that says, I don't care about the price of Bitcoin, I only care about the technology, no, they're lying. The price matters. It always mattered. But the flip side is true. Like, anyone that only cares about the price has to pay attention to the technology, because the reason why the price is going up is because technology is keeping it decentralized. Otherwise, there's really no point. And I know there's been a bunch of debates, and Giacomo just brought up the topic of Bitcoin used as a savings versus the means of payment, and we all know a famous person that disagreed with this view, and that was, of course, Roger Ver. And I do feel bad for what happened to him, like with the U.S. government and taxes. What's your view on that? Because I have to defend Roger Ver here, because the U.S. government is completely out of line, trying to sentence him to 100 years. He's got like a petition. He needs like 200 signatures. I'm actually gonna, I'm on his side on this one, regardless of how the directions that we went. And we both knew that Bitcoin was gonna survive and the other side was gonna die anyway. So it was a necessary growing pain. But I'm gonna, back Roger on this one. What's your thoughts, Giacomo?
Same. If I have to choose between a government and shitcoiners, I will always choose shitcoiner in general. That's also true for CZ. And if tomorrow the government comes from Vitalik, I will also defend Vitalik. With Roger in particular, it's even harder, because I know that unlike many other shitcoiners, he was not driven by personal. I think he was not driven by greed, but by ideology and ego. So he didn't make stuff in order just to scam people intentionally. He was just driven into a crazy ego spiral, and he doesn't deserve to be in jail. Of course, the two criticisms you can make is one. I mean, what did you expect? That is a criticism you can try to pose at Roger, but also at us. Like, you are taking on central banks. Did you expect to be able to go around to speak against the government forever without any consequence? And that's a true argument. It's not like saying that a girl going with a skirt in a park deserve something bad, but it's like we may be spoiled by the fact that we are not being hunted enough by the government yet. So we may be surprised that now the Samurai developers are in jail and the Tornado Cash guy is in jail. So the whole point of Satoshi being anonymous was not going frontal with your name and face against the government, and that was a good strategy. I think we, in first person, we kind of, well, me especially, we forgot a little bit of the strategy. We may have been a little bit complacent with the idea to put your name and face against the government directly. But from the point of principles, absolutely, I stand with Roger. Should be free. Transacting money is never a crime, and keeping your wealth away from organized robbers like nation states is not a crime. Is actually a virtue, because any single dollar you don't get to the IRS, you are taking it away from bombing children and other nasty stuff. So I'm totally with Roger.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I'm gonna plug it. There is a petition going called freerogernow.org. Go ahead and sign that. And yeah, because even though we disagreed, I've debated him 3 times. It's hopefully with this new administration, the Trump administration, they won't go after him and sentence him like what happened with Ross, and hopefully Trump will commence Ross's sentence and get him free as well. But going back to the original question about Bear Stearns, yes, I was there in 2008 during the collapse. I was on the quant desk building risk models, and that helped me understand money, and it led to me discovering Bitcoin later on. The Cyprus banking confiscation also had something to do with that. That's how I became the advocate of the word unconfiscatable. And yeah, so where is Bitcoin today relative? I'm happy where we are today. I think it's where I would have thought it would be at this point in the state, in its evolutionary cycle. And I think it's only going to get better from here. So I'm happy where we are.
I'm going to pass it on to Paul, and then we're going to wrap it up. Then we're going to take it back to the main stage. Paul, closing thoughts.
Well, I'll just give some closing thoughts on this conference and Latin American adoption. It seems to me like Latin America in general has a massive future with Bitcoin. I think we're going to see an exceptional amount of growth as this entire continent is freed from fiat currency, slowly but surely. Nostr here has been a massive impression on me, and the Nostr protocol as a means to deliver a whole new economy economy on top of the internet, and Bitcoin being the money of Nostr is very promising. So I'm very excited about that, and all the stablecoin discussions and CBD discussions have been very insightful and very well prepared. So a hugely valuable conference, and I look forward to what Latin America does here in the future.
Appreciate it. Before we pass it on to the main stage, I do want to give a shout out to our panelists. Of course, Tone Vays, renowned leftist, proud supporter of the Communist Manifesto. Of course, Giacomo Zucco, executive assistant to Augustin Carson of the Bank of International Settlements, and the CEO of ByteFederal, Paul. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're going to take it back to the main stage.
So you've heard Bitcoin is the new gold rush by now. As world leaders on all sides have endorsed it as the future of money, and now you're looking to get started, we'll show you how. It's actually easier than you think. First, go to your nearest ByteFederal ATM and turn your cash to coin. ByteFederal has over 1,200 locations around the country with the highest daily limits. Go to our website, ByteFederal.com, to find the nearest ATM to you. Log in to any wallet, then create an account, deposit your US cash, and instantly convert it to Bitcoin. That's it. We are the only US manufacturer and operator in the Bitcoin ATM industry, and our US-based live customer service is second to none. Go on, give it a whirl, and don't get left behind. Click the link below.